Where are you coming from?
I am coming from my home, from being a bit scared about the wisdom teeth operation. Not scared about the pain afterwards, but I think it's manageable, and honestly, it's a good opportunity for me to like control my mind or see what can I do. But other than that, I had a question.
Okay.
It it's
Your true home you'll never leave once you get there. What you're calling home, I understand, but someday you'll see real home. Okay, but go ahead. What was your question?
so my question is at work, few of my colleagues went for a meditation retreat for 10 days.
Hmm.
What
Okay.
do you think about it?
What kind of meditation retreat?
I think this one was a Vipassana one. I feel like it's a good thing to do just digital detox and all because there I
Absolutely.
would be
For
forced to.
for if you want to start a 3 day retreat, a 1 day retreat, a 10 day retreat, a 30 day retreat, whatever, to get started. It's just if they're successful in creating a space between the objects of their mind and the observing or the aware or the perceiving or the conscious part of the mind, if they could just create that space, they'll be years ahead. Now, do you need to go on a retreat to do that? I never went on a retreat. Well, I did. I should take that back. I went on a. I would do 1 day retreats, but they would sit us down and you just meditate the whole day. And I don't know if that counts as a retreat anymore. But retreats are good for some people. It gets them started. Many people get their start that way, and that's good. Anything to get people started in having a real life as opposed to a sham life. So is it necessary? Not really. But is it good for people? Yeah, sure. Anything to get them to slow down, to stop, and to look. That would be great.
Okay.
It's hilarious how people pay money to go sit down quietly. Ha ha. On the other hand, there's something else that goes on I should mention, and this is real. I've been in many situations where there's large numbers of Dharma folks sitting together, and there the energetics work. It's like when a Dharma teacher gets in front of a crowd that's attuned to him, the energies work, right? So you're not just working with your own individual mind, body, mind energies. Now you're working with a collective energy, and just like a rock concert or a political rally or a mob, an enraged mob, the energy is contagious, and so you can get that to work in your favor for sure. So yeah, good. How old are your friends? Just roughly 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s,
20s,
20s. Good.
mid to late 20s.
It's never too early to start to have a real life,
Yeah.
a satisfying, gratifying life that's good for
Yeah.
everyone. I'm hopeful that more
Yeah.
people will become more spiritually minded as the building comes crashing down. What do you think?
Honestly, suffering is the greatest motivator. Otherwise,
Yeah, it's
it,
yeah. It makes you wonder. Maybe that's the function of suffering on this planet.
I feel like it breaks the cycle. It's just a proof by the whole universe that your mind's predictions are wrong. Like I feel like
The mind cannot
this
be
mind.
correct.
Yeah, yeah,
So we're born physically, and then we acquire the human mind, and then if we're lucky, we spend our adult life putting that mind in its place, putting it in its corner, or it's in the pantry. We just pull it out when we need it. So good for them. Good. Talk to them before and after. See what you. Yeah, you can learn too.
okay,
Have you
yeah.
ever been on such a retreat?
No,
You might want to try a 1 day or 2 day, 3 day.
I
If
I
you
was thinking about that.
Yeah,
So,
for you, I would say that'd be good.
yes,
Sit towards the outside and just soak up the energies and just, it's not going to hurt.
yes, yeah,
Good. Good, good, good.
yeah. So, I this is some different question, and
Question.
so I was thinking a bit about our discussion that we had last week about awareness and who is the one who thinks I is I. And I kind of get it. So here's the theory that I thought of about origins of separate self, and let me know if I'm wrong or misguided here. What I think is awareness has always been there from birth. In early childhood, most thoughts were related to present things at hand, but like eventually, because of interaction with the world started forcing an object I into my sequence of thoughts. Like a small child just thinking about something, and suddenly teachers started saying, referring to me, and have started using sentences with I to like make me know what I is.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, this object I became a central thing, and I started believing it to be true. And I kind of get it because, like, in childhood, I feel things are way simple and you can predict things if you do some things. Like in tests, if you read about all these things, then yeah, you can score high. But so my point is, mind's prediction is pretty good in childhood, but it's a mistake to make that assumption when you go to adulthood. But the thing that I think is throughout all this morphing of my separate I, right? The awareness is aware about it. The awareness has always been there, underlying this. Problem is, it can't do anything.
Okay, so
And
there's a few problems with just a few with what you said. Although overall you're absolutely correct. You need to start it earlier in life. So when you're in the womb, is there a separate self?
I don't think so.
No, there's
From the
not. There's
previous
not
videos,
because you're hooked up to your mother's blood system, and you're getting your nourishment from there, and you're not breathing air from the outside, and so there's no separate self. Now, when you're born, let's say the first 30 minutes you're born, is there a separate self?
I don't think so.
No, no,
I
you're
think
just
it's
cast into
six.
hell. You're just cast into hell. You've been in this nice, warm, perfect, I mean, literally perfect environment where the sounds are muffled and the food's good and the temperature's always just right. And then all of a sudden, you're in this bright light and you start to scream your head off because what the hell is this, right? That's normal.
Yes.
But even then, according to psychoanalytic theory, I don't remember myself, obviously, but with psychoanalytic theory, they would say that the child has not differentiated a self and another yet. And they presume this from a number of ways that the child acts, but the breast of the mother is the archetypical object, as they call it, right? Unfortunate word. But the child is fused with that breast. And when he's hungry, the breast appears. And when he's full, the breast goes away. It's like magic. So it feels kind of like sucking his thumb, right? But he doesn't even really control his thumb yet. So for a few months, at least, the child lives in an undifferentiated state of communion or no differentiation of self and other. Later, or alongside that, the mother and the father start calling it or calling it she, calling her Mary or calling her Ellen or calling her Bob or whatever. And the child learns to differentiate themselves from that and from their experience with the objects, which become frustrating. They don't do what you want. You're hungry and there's no food. So you go, hey, what gives here? And then gradually the child learns, just like they learn to what's their body and what's not. By grabbing things and putting them in their mouth. They put everything in their mouth so they can see what it is. Uh, and so that process precedes the one that you're referring to, but it's along the same pattern. Okay?
Yeah.
Now let's go to your question.
Yeah. So in all this process, awareness is there. It's not interacting with these things. And what we see is morphing of my sequence of thoughts
Correct.
into taking into consideration the separate self.
Good. So you've happened upon a very important point, which is in the beginning, like with your pals in the meditation retreat, what we want them to do is to separate their awareness from the objects of their awareness. A more advanced contemplation, meditation, whatever you want to call it, is contemplating what are the relationship of the objects of awareness to that awareness. So if you're there, that's good.
So a question here is
so what causes things to act in this world?
Everything. The whole universe.
Can you forgive me for a second? I need to get it. I forgot something. I need to get something to drink real quick, okay? I'll be right back.
Yes.
Okay, let's get back to that question of yours. Question.
Yeah, so my thing is like, I feel like this awareness is always there, but why did I forget about my awareness and started relying too much on my separate self?
Just a bad habit. A habit. Happens to all of us.
Okay.
Now,
Okay,
if you were
childhood,
a tree, or if you were for a big cat in the jungle, your awareness is your awareness, period. But because we have this intermediate of words and sentences and language and objects that are abstract, like names and schools and other people with names, then we gradually fall into this mistaking the map for the territory.
So, thing is, what's the problem with objects of awareness? Aren't they just thoughts itself, normally flowing in life?
Well, if you tell me what a tree is, I'll tell you what a thought is. How's that? Is that fair?
I can't talk about tree in absolute sense. I can talk about its properties, but
Correct.
to actually say you need to be there.
Correct. So you can't tell me what a tree is, but you're asking me to tell you what is. Your mind?
Honestly, yeah, that's
Okay. What if I were to say they were the same thing? As things go, as you know, it's a process, not a thing. But let's say it's the same process. You wouldn't understand that.
Yeah.
That wouldn't make sense, would it?
Yeah, that's the limitation of our communication. There's no way to communicate without objects.
So let's do something. Let's make it more simple. You know who Donald Hoffman is?
Yeah.
So he has a model. Tell me about his model. Tell the folks about his model of reality. Donald Hoffman is a mathematician, a fairly rigorous one too, from what I can tell. And he's also something of a philosopher and a thinker, a good thinker, as those things go. So tell the group, if you remember, what his model of the universe is.
I actually don't know what the model is.
Okay. Well, what he says is that reality, first of all, we can't see base reality. All we can see are the objects of sense. We can only
Yeah.
see things that we can hear, things that we can, let's just use, and things that we can see. Let's just use those to keep it simple, right? Now,
Yes.
he says, and I think it's hard to argue with, that there has to be some kind of transducer or some modulator or transformer between outside abstract reality, real reality, and what we perceive as our objects of sense, like for a tree or a cloud. Now, I don't know how he stands on the simulation theory, but it's, you know what the simulation theory is, right?
Yeah.
What is it?
Yep. I think the reality is a simulation that
Yeah,
is
okay,
being
like a
run on
computer
computer.
simulation run by somebody up in the cloud. People are funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so leave that aside. That's neither here nor there, and we'll outgrow that idea, I think, fairly quickly. Now, what he says is that what we have are representations of the raw data that we organize into, and he uses a metaphor that's quite nice. Icons on a computer screen, right? So if you're looking at a Ferrari, a red Ferrari going down the road, this is his example. There's no real red Ferrari there. There's something moving, right? In the zeros and ones, I suppose. I presume that's how he's thinking. But it's not red, and it's not a Ferrari. Those are things we add to it. With our eyes, we add the color, and with our mind, we add the name, right? But he says for our purposes, and not just us, also animals, we create a little icon. Like, you remember the trash bin on, do they still have waste baskets on computer screens to delete files?
Yeah.
Where you drag your documents and you put it in the waste basket and they disappear. He says that our reality's like that. So the only reason I'm bringing him up is because it's a nice metaphor as a stepping stone. So he says that what we're seeing is not the real world. What we're seeing is the equivalent of icons. There's not really a little radio there. There's not really a little waste basket there. There's not really a file with papers in it. But we use that in order as shortcuts, right? And so just like although you could say, and it'd be true, that you take these files in this folder and you drag it over to this waste basket, and then you put it in the waste basket and they get deleted. We could say that. All of it's not true, right? There are no papers, there are no files, there is no waste basket, and they don't get deleted, they get moved someplace else, and then they get eaten up, presumably, right? Correct?
Yeah.
And he says that animals must have this as well, and that what we do is create with our brains models of the world that allow us to do certain things, acquire energy, and avoid death, right? And this is the model that he uses as a representation of the objects of consciousness, of awareness. Okay? Questions or follow-up?
I actually do agree with him, and I feel like my awareness is
Well, it's
kind
just a
of
metaphor. It's just a metaphor.
yeah.
Okay, good. So
Yeah.
you agree with the metaphor so far. Good.
Yeah. So few days ago, I was listening to Rupert Spira's meditation about where do you feel the senses.
Good.
The meditation was
Where do you
closed
feel them?
after.
Where do you feel your senses?
I don't know. Like
Good.
it's like there is this awareness. First of all, it's dimensionless. There's no dimension to that awareness.
How do you know?
Yet, because the moment there is a dimension, I'm looking at that fact itself. Like, do you get my point? Like, how should I say? Like, if I'm awareness and I think that awareness has dimension, then that awareness should be able to see itself because there exists some dimension, right?
Okay.
But it can't
All right.
ever
So,
do
so through logic, you say
Yeah.
it doesn't have dimensions.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And then
Because
someday you'll
I feel like
know that
dimensions
from
is-
direct perception too, by the way. See, the
Yeah.
danger here is it's. I think it's great to listen to Rupert Spirit. I think it's great to listen to Eckhart Tolle and a bunch of other people too, by the way, Krishnamurti and folks like this. But it's very important that you not adopt anything on their authority. Okay, so you have to verify everything yourself. All right, but it sounds like you have. You've thought it through, and by Gödel's, by some variation of Gödel's Godels is principle. You can't analyze. You can't imagine a system that you're a part of from the outside, or you just
Yeah.
get into endless recursions. All
It,
right.
it's just like I can't think about present
Okay, so awareness
because
has no
thinking
dimensions.
is
Good.
something.
I interrupted you. Good. I just want to check to make sure that these things all belong to you now, because this is painstaking work in a way. You have to take one step after another. But what you're doing is laying a really good foundation. So keep going. So you know awareness is dimensionless. Now what?
So now what? So what I did was I closed my eyes, and then he asked, basically asked everyone to close their eyes and listen to something, or afterwards smell something, and afterwards feel their skin, like maybe they are against something and all. And in every part of this exercise, he asked them where in their experience are they feeling these sensations.
Good.
Because so if I open my eyes, I don't know, my mind basically says, yeah, I feel it around my jaw, or I feel it around my buttocks because I'm sitting right now. Yet I I still, it's
Okay,
like,
let's try this. Close your eyes. Empty the stale air out of your breath, out of your chest. Sorry. Take a few deep breaths and get yourself settled. Stack your spine. Using your breath to lead you, just let your mind settle until it quiets way down. Now, there should be just a blackness everywhere. Or perhaps there's a little dull light in the place where your eyes might have been. So now you're going to turn the light around and just be in that huge spaciousness, black spaciousness. Now listen to sounds for the moment. And imagine the distance between them. Now double the distance between them. Now triple the distance between them. Now increase the distance by 10 times. Because it's dimensionless space, the distance between these objects of sound is completely arbitrary. And we place them in our skull just out of habit. Or, if you want, you could take a sound from outside, like that car horn honking, and place it where it really occurs, let's say inside your skull. Forget your body. Forget your name. Forget your memories. Forget your plans. Just be awareness for a while. And notice how it's only out of habit that we place a sound one place or another. If you've turned the light around and you're just in pure awareness. You can bring them as close as you like or as far as you want. You can put them inside your skull, or put them on the other side of the moon. Because the space between them, like the space between you and me, is not real, it's only apparent. For example, my voice, you can put it anywhere you like. Almost forgot what I was doing down there, back there. Okay, does that work? Does that help? Practice that, right? The main thing is to forget your personal identity, forget your personal plans and memories and history. Just drop your personal history, etc. Drop your personal agenda, and just be in the awareness. Now you can focus on the sensory elements. Once you're focused on the sensory elements, you can start to discern for yourself whether or not they're fixed in space or whether or not you can move them around in this dimensionless space, as you said. But there's no units, right? There's no units. There's no inches or kilometers or miles or anything like that. So there's freedom there. The mind is non-dwelling. The mind is not fixed in space.
I just had one problem though, like when you said to like double the distance or triple the distance, then I actually started imagining it. Basically, thought came into being, started imagining what it would be if it's at 10x distance.
Yeah, but you're just getting started. So with practice, you'll do it effortlessly with no thought. I mean, almost no thought.
Yeah.
Eventually you'll realize you don't need the thought. You don't need any of it, but before you get there, you need to understand the power of and the dimensions of the place you're actually inhabiting. And it's more than this earth. It'd be more like this universe. But even that's setting an arbitrary limit on it. There are no bounds to your awareness, you're right. Keep that in mind. And something else, I just have to say this because it came to mind at the moment, is if you're ever around the swimming pool at night and there's a moon out, or a clear lake or something like that, look at the reflection of the moon on that lake. And if you could see to the bottom, the moonlight will go all the way to the bottom of the pool too. So look at the moon on the bottom of the pool, look at the moon on the surface of the lake, and then look at the moon in the sky. And that's just a good thing to do, or anything like that, right? To teach you more about the nature of our universe. It seems trivial, but believe me, it's not. Since the moon itself is a reflection of light, correct? We don't really see the moon. The moon's dark, but we see the reflection of light from the moon. So just keep an eye out for that. I say that just because it's been so useful so many times in my life. Okay, so yeah, in the beginning it's going to seem a little awkward, but as you practice this meditation, be very quick to just drop yourself, just blow it out with the stale air. Yeah, blow out all your thought. Just stop thinking. It's nice. It's very nice. Thinking causes all our problems. Okay, question or follow-up?
Yeah, so a follow-up to that, and this is something that you brought up in between as well. Like, I know this fact, yet I still can't separate myself from believing the predictions or just believing the separate self. Why?
Does all of you believe in your separate self?
Not all. Some of them do believe that it's
All
wrong.
right, well, just ignore the ones that do believe in it, and listen to the ones that do, and just it takes a while. It takes time. I mean, it's not like your separate self doesn't exist. It just exists as an illusion. It's like if I showed you a dollar bill, I mean, that would seem very convincing. It's a dollar bill, and it is. But it's just a symbol. And it's a symbol of what? It's not a symbol of gold. It's not a symbol of gold. It's not a symbol of pennies. I suppose it could be a symbol of pennies. But both of those are symbols for something else, like stored work or something.
Yeah.
And so it is with everything. Everything. And the other thing you'll notice is that we go around and we chop the universe up into little chunks. You know, well, this is nature, this is not nature, this is history, this is math, this is psychology, this is physics, this is biology. All these things are just arbitrary lines that we draw.
Yeah, that's just labeling. The reality is way more intricate than that.
I'm sorry?
And that's just labeling. I believe reality is way more intricate and interconnecting
Absolutely,
than that.
absolutely. And
Things.
hopefully the AI will help us with this, because the AI didn't go through high school and college and all that other stuff. And so it doesn't have those arbitrary boundaries. By the way, I was talking to the latest iteration of Chat GPT 4.0. Have you tried the chat, the verbal one?
No.
You can carry on a conversation with that machine. It's incredible. Scared me to death. Scared me. Yeah, that thing's amazing. It'll freak you out. If you don't know what to talk to it about, ask it, what should somebody your age be thinking about in your situation? What are some things I might be thinking about, or we can have a conversation about? And put it in, make sure it knows you want to have a conversation. It'll scare you. In 2 years, it'll be absolutely amazing. So it's very good for us humans to focus on what we know, all right, what we're good at, what we're made for, that the machine cannot do. Okay, sir? Follow-ups?
No, not to this.
So remember, it's your consciousness. You can do all kinds of things, whatever you want with it, right? You can do backflips into infinity. You could do all kinds of things. We live in this very constrained little idea of what we are, right? This body, and it's got gravity and this and that, and everything's inside my skull. But the reality is not like that at all. With awareness, you could just, like, if you want to go, like turning the light around, you can do it like this, right? Turn the light around. Or you could do it like this. Just take a back flip, bloop, boop, land on your feet, and now you're in awareness. You're much freer than you give yourself credit for. And freedom's just another name for this game. Liberation, freedom. Freedom in truth, freedom in beauty. The real mystery is why everybody isn't doing this.
Yeah, so
But maybe they're NPCs.
that's
No, seriously.
maybe.
Maybe they're NPCs. I mean, I wouldn't put it past God. Create a universe with a flick of his little finger, create a universe. And all the creatures in it. All the creatures that ever were, are, and will be. Just like that. So, I mean, don't put anything past the supreme creative force of this universe. What most people call God. Seriously, the power is enough to knock you on the ground and knock you unconscious. That happened to me once. I was out for days. But I wasn't prepared for it. Okay, questions?
What happened?
Well, I was in this particular state, and I remember I could tell something was happening, and I looked through a window and I saw this. See, the word "saw" is wrong because we don't have any other words for it. My eyes were open, and what encroached was a power like I've never could imagine, and it knocked me unconscious for a while. That's how I discovered time wasn't real. Because I woke up several days later, and where was the time? Yeah, so I think in the Sufis they talk about this. Like if you were to touch truth or reality completely unprepared, just raw, it'd be like sticking your fingers in a electrical outlet. It'll wipe you flat. The brain's not equipped for that kind of stuff. But it's nothing to be fearful of because you're working up to it. You're gradually working up to it, and it'll be fine. I mean, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just telling you that there is power there far, far, far beyond anything we could even begin to conceive. Well, of course. How do you create a universe? That's power.
Actually, my second question was related to this, but prior to that, how do people who take psychedelics not suffer a lot from this? Or maybe am I
Some
wrong?
do. Some do. Not only that, that guy, there's a really cute kid on YouTube. He's Theories of Truth or something. Some kid goes theories of everything, not theories of truth. It'd be the same thing as it's theory of truth. And he, I think, talked to somebody in the wrong order. I think he may have spoken to, I think it was Bernardo Kastrup. Or maybe it was somebody else. And he had a full-blown panic attack. I mean, he did not like it at all. He felt like, wait a minute, if I'm not me, then what am I? And he had an existential crisis, and it scared him. But that's unusual. It happens. I mean, it happens in meditation retreats. It happens. So that's the other thing, to warn your friends. If they start feeling bad, then that's not supposed to be part of the program. I mean, some physical pain from sitting might be there, and some discomfort and feeling bored and all. That's all part of the program. But if they start to feel like petrified, then that's not part of the program. They should talk to somebody.
So exactly to this is my second question. I have been thinking a bit about this, and there have been some instances when I'm thinking or going for a walk, my mind basically says, I don't know what I'm getting at. And like you basically said, if I awaken,
you think about going,
then
wait a minute, stop. You think about going for a walk, and your mind says, I don't know what I'm getting at.
not think about while I am walking, I
Right.
just contemplate on few things. And sometimes during these walk, these thoughts pop up that I don't know what I am getting at. And to be honest, there is no way of knowing it because by definition, if I awaken, that ego won't exist. So there's no way of knowing it in my current state.
That's not true.
There could be glimpses of it.
I'm sorry, what? What makes you think you're moving at all when you walk? Well, there's a change in scenery and your legs seem to move.
Yeah.
But what if that were just, let's say you were in VR. Could you be sitting in the same place of awareness, VR, virtual reality, and you're walking down the street, you're playing Grand Theft Auto. You're walking down and driving down the street, everything's moving, and it feels like you're moving your legs, but nothing's really happening. You're not moving at all.
Yeah, that's basically Boltzmann brain, right?
I'm sorry, Boltzmann's brain? Well, Boltzmann's brain
Yeah.
is a lot more than that. Boltzmann simply noted that if you looked at it in terms of energetics, in terms of the energy required to build an entire universe compared to the one of constructing a virtual universe inside a brain, that the energy requirements of the individual brain hallucinating the whole universe was more likely from a
Yeah.
energetic point of view or some energetic differential. But the problem with that, of course, is then you have this brain. Now, who's looking at that brain, and where is that brain, and what is that brain made of? And so it creates another problem.
Or maybe what he was referring to as brain was just a metaphorical thing. Maybe
Yes,
he
yeah,
was
yeah.
just referring it as awareness.
I'm sure. But nobody really refuted his point. They just kind of laughed at him. Poor guy.
Yeah.
And he couldn't say this thing
But
seriously.
it,
This is the
like,
problem with our science in the West. We are unwilling to let go of this artificial distinction we've made between third person rigorous investigation of the world around us and first person equally rigorous, if not more rigorous, examination of the world around us. Because of that, we have thrown out literally millennia of psychologists and mind scientists and mystics and spiritual folk and just philosophical folks. Like, for example, with Pythagoras, we took the numbers, but we left everything else. Right? And with same thing with Socrates to some extent, and Plato, etc. And so and these guys like Newton and Leibniz, and they couldn't even talk about these things because they'd be left out of town. So I don't understand that, but those days may be coming to an end pretty quickly because we have the great, completely admirable in one way, I admire it, technological advance. Abilities to do things with nature, but we don't understand what nature is. We don't understand the essence of life or the essence of even existence as a commonplace. I mean, people do, but they can't because it's beyond concepts. They can't talk about it very well.
But I have this weird question, like what you're discussing is basically objective versus subjective reality, right?
No. Okay, so which is so let's say we're looking at a quantum experiment in the lab.
Okay.
What's the line between subjective and objective?
Subjective is when you actually look at that experiment, you get to know what the state is. Objective is the state can be anything until and unless someone looks at it.
But that's imagination.
A concept, yes.
So
yeah,
one is
concepts.
imagination and the other one is subjective?
Yeah, subjective is the thing that the observer is actually observing.
Right, but what is the relationship of that observer to what he's observing? In the quantum experiment, quantum state experiment.
They're tightly coupled because the result of the thing that is being observed depends on when the observer looks at it.
That's one way of saying it, but another way of saying it is that the observer is completely entangled with the experiment. And the experiment remains fantasy or future or unknown as long as they're not entangled. But everything in this universe at this moment is entangled, right? How could it not be entangled? I mean, we'd have to put it in very, very, very low pressure and say some prayers and isolate it from the rest of the world, create a quantum, interface where nothing could interact with it, so we could have a clean experiment. Otherwise, the environment is interacting with the experiment. So look up observer problem real quick and just read it out for people. No, but it's be good to do that. All right, but let's go to what you want to say. But I think not everybody knows about the observer problem. So help me out here.
What is the observer problem? Observer bias occurs when we alter what we see, either by only noticing what we expect or by behaving in ways.
No, that's observer bias. That's observer bias. I want the observer problem in physics.
The quantum mechanical observer is tied to the issue of observer effect, where a measurement
read slowly and clearly so people can understand. Start from the beginning, please.
Yeah, so the quantum mechanical observer is tied to the issue of observer effect, where a measurement necessarily requires interacting with the physical object being measured, affecting its property through the interaction.
Perfect.
The term observable has gained a technical meaning denoting Hermitian operator that represents a measurement. But yeah.
So observing is the same thing as measuring.
At least in this context, yeah, that's what.
Well, this is quantum. This is science. This is basic science. This is what do you mean in this context? Observing is measuring.
Yeah.
Measuring is observing.
Yeah.
Whether it's a human eye or a device, doesn't matter. But all that's going to be outdated because it's clearly they're entangled, right? What we call collapse of the wave function is just entanglement. It means welcome to this universe.
Yeah, like from what I have heard is like when the particles are so small, because to see something you need photons, but the problem is these photons will excite these particles. So you can never know their position or velocity at the same time. The basic Heisenberg principle and the interaction that this definition is talking about, the problem with observing things through light.
Okay, and what happens when they get bigger? Where do you draw the line between classical and quantum mechanical realities?
You can't. And
okay,
to be honest,
perfect. You can't. Okay, so we're living in a quantum mechanical world. That's all.
Yeah, actually, classical mechanical is just approximation of quantum mechanical world to make things easy.
Very good, to make things easier. Well, so now that we know that the outside world depends on us, or we're entangled with it, and what we observe is part of it, let's go back to the subject-object problem. Is that where you were going?
Yeah, so I have one problem or one question regarding that.
Love questions.
So I agree every object of awareness is related to one another.
Okay, every object of what? Every object of awareness is related to one another?
Yes. The net of Indra.
Okay. The interpenetration. The fact that nothing exists. Forgive me because I'm trying to explain to people as we go. Nothing exists inherently. Everything is made up of other parts. Nothing exists independently. Everything is connected with other things in this universe. That's why we call it a universe, right? As opposed to another verse. Another verse.
Yes.
So now you understand this, right? Good. You're making good progress. Now what?
Except awareness can be separate from everything because awareness doesn't interact with these objects at all. So we can say awareness can be separate than the objects of awareness.
That awareness cannot be what?
That awareness can be separate because
what you're saying, awareness cannot be separate from these objects. Is that what you're saying?
No, I am saying awareness can be separate from these objects.
Can be? How?
And my reasoning is there is one directional relation between awareness and the objects of awareness. Awareness can't do anything. So how can it has any relation with objects of its awareness?
Okay.
Yet
I'm going to leave your conclusion
it,
aside, but you're moving too fast. All right. So you're saying awareness cannot do anything with the objects because it's separate. This is the problem that
yes,
Descartes had, right? That basically soul, how does soul interact with the material world? How does spirit interact? So this is good. So you're going through the struggle that Descartes went through. Correct? So you're telling me
yeah.
if awareness is separate, it cannot do anything with the objects in this universe.
I think I'm doing it the other way. It's like it can't do anything. It can be just aware of things. That's why I think because of one directional relation, awareness can be separate from others, objects of its awareness.
Okay, but good. You're going in the right direction, but my job here is to help round it out a bit, okay?
Okay, yeah.
So tell me,
Yeah.
what in this universe can act on something else independently?
Independently, it cannot.
So nothing in this
But
universe can do anything, or can it?
so you're saying everything's predetermined, which I kind of agree.
Well, you're
But
covering
yeah,
your mouth and you're coming. This sounds not good. So speak clearly. I know you had that wisdom tooth out, so I understand. But this is good stuff for folks. So what did you just say?
so I like what you're saying is I kind of get it. Like everything is predetermined
No,
because
don't accept my conclusions. Go through the work. I mean, you can get there logically as well. And what I'm saying is, you
yeah,
can show me anything in the universe that has an effect on something else that is independent. An independent mover
it,
in this universe is what we're looking for.
independent mover doesn't exist.
Okay. And now you're telling
Any
me that
interaction
awareness
happened because
itself,
it
now
was
okay. And so point two, you're saying that awareness cannot move anything in this universe.
no. Otherwise,
No or yes?
I
You're
would have
telling me
seen
that.
the
Are you
world.
telling me that or not
No,
telling me that?
no, because otherwise it would have seen the fault of me believing in the separate self or my sequence of thoughts, believing in that separate
Oh,
self.
so you think the job of awareness is to disabuse you of your illusion?
Not necessarily. There is no law
Actually,
written like
that's
that.
exactly
I
what
don't
it's
think
for.
so.
That's exactly what it is, and that's exactly what I'm doing, and that's exactly what this universe is doing for you right now, trying to bring you home. And it's a very mysterious thing, but even not, it doesn't have to be a human being talking to you, but as you go around the day, you'll start to see things that come together in such a way that you'll realize gradually. You're making good progress, my friend. This is good. So, but let's summarize before we stop. So what have you decided today? That awareness and objects are separate. Awareness is separate from the objects of separateness, correct?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
secondly, that awareness cannot move objects in this universe.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And
From my
then thirdly,
experience.
just to make things difficult for you, sorry, but this is part of the process. Nothing known to man can do anything in this universe on its own. Hence, we have the Big Bang, because we had to give up on the God was not a cool idea, so we said, okay, well, just Big Bang, and the universe appeared, and then nobody looked. It's kind of silly. Okay, and now we have all these competing things, like, oh my God, there must be multiple universes and all this other silly, it's a fun stuff. Okay, that is a good morning's work. Good. Just keep at it. You can get there the hard way through reason and logic, or you can get there the direct way, or my favorite, do both. Why not? It's beautiful. Everything's beautiful and imbued with love.
Yeah.
So good, sir. Bravo. Good job. That's the universe applauding you. Anything else before we stop?
Uh,
Take your time. We have a
I
little
just
time.
had one question.
Go ahead.
I do have quite a few questions from dream conversations that we can discuss later.
Oh,
But
I love
what
dream conversations. No, go ahead. That adds a little direct
I,
spice.
okay, I can ask one question. There are a few, or clarity on few things.
Just because I have it out here, let me
Honestly,
show a book to folks. Oh, maybe I don't have. Well, Transmission of Light. This is an interesting book because it's just a collection of enlightenment stories through the ages. But it gets a little dense, and sometimes it gets a little hagiographic. Do you know what hagiography is? Hagiography?
no.
It's like a it's like a funeral memorial speech where you eulogize the master, and they get carried away by talking about how wonderful the master was, and they give them all kinds of, like, when someone's dead, they think more of them than when they're alive. But so hagiography is like a study of saints with and oftentimes includes quite a bit of embellishment, which we don't particularly appreciate in our endeavor. But this is another one, the Sutra of Huineng, Grand Master of Zen. This is his commentary on the Diamond Sutra. And again, these books are priceless because we have an enlightened translator working from the original text. So, I'm sorry. Dream Conversations. Here we go. Boom. A great little, for those of you who don't like to spend too much time reading, this is nice and short. Okay, go ahead, sir.
So I think it's in the page 52 of Dream Conversations.
Coming right up, page 52. Which section? Not in the words or the origins of koan practice?
Not in the words.
Okay, let me read it a little bit.
Yep.
Not in the words. Direct indications of the fundamental do not contain their intentions in their literal expression. Therefore, students with keen faculties understand the import outside the words. In that case, however, how could there be any further discussion about the literal phrasing? In that case, how could there be any further discussion about the literal phrasing? Duller students who linger over words find that they cannot figure them out intellectually. As long as their aspiration for enlightenment is unbending, their minds congeal in wonder. Some may break through this wonderment in a few days, others may take months, years, or even decades. This congealed wonder puts a halt to compulsive intellectualizing, enabling the student to break through to a transconceptual mode of consciousness. This is why the ancient Zen masters said that there is great enlightenment where there has been great wonder. That's wonderful. That's beautiful. Dang. So great wonder and the congealing of the mind, and then you, boom, break through it. Okay, what's the question?
So my question is, what is this congealed wonder? Because I feel like this is the critical point where someone, rather than intellectually discussing, move from that to a bit more towards
Congealed.
intent.
Let me tell you about it. Okay, so I know this is a very unpopular word these days, but one is rendered humble. One is rendered into a state of humility when one truly and sincerely and earnestly inquires about, wait a minute, what is this universe? And what am I? And why am I here? And how does this work? And what's this about? And where did it come from? And where's it going? And then you look at some of the signs of God, these trees, these clouds, these birds, these flowers, and you go, good God, what's going on here? And you really, really want to know. That's what we call unbending intent. That's what they're all talking. This is what the flower ornament dedicates a whole chapter to, the dedication of intent. Do you know which chapter that is? The flower ornament, this beautiful text here that'll do it to you, if nothing else. It'll wake you up, this book. Now, so the dedication of intent, unbending intent, undying intent, supreme dedication, all of these, when you ask these questions sincerely, they're going to fill you with wonder. That wonder congeals, and you need to know the answer. I mean, it just becomes like what you need to know. And then, through some miracles, somebody says something, it hits you the right way, a dog barks in the distance, you wake up from a nap, a Zen master hits you with a stick, and pops your head, and just your ego just drops out. They call it the bucket falling out, which is a beautiful description. And all of a sudden you're in the real world, and by God, you're home. You're really home, and your life changes forever. And now you have a real human life. Now you can start living a human life, in the Taoist sense. So the Taoists, the Buddhists, the Hindus, the who are the ones that do the light? The Zoroastrians, the Muslims, the Christians. It's all about the same thing. It's all about the same thing. And so the rules are that sincerity is required. Now, living a good life is also necessary, but that's just because if you don't live a good life, you just have all these distractions everywhere. Why did I lie about this, to whom, and what, they're going to catch me on this, or, I'm living and oh my God, I got so much debt, or, the crazy things that people do. Those are just distractions. You get those out of the way, live a decent life, have right livelihood, right? And right awareness and right contemplation and the right books around you, the right people, so on and so forth, and you wake up. Slowly or suddenly. But again, whether you walk through a mist or you walk through a thunderstorm, you get just as wet. So that's what's meant by great wonder, the congealing of great wonder. It's exactly what he says. It's beautifully phrased. And then in that circumstance, have you ever heard the statement, chance favors the prepared mind? Have you ever heard that?
Chance? No.
Okay, write this down. Chance, write it down. Chance favors the preferred mind.
Chance favorite is a preferred mind.
Favorites the preferred mind. It's a saying from science. Because scientists that have a prepared mind, they're much more likely to make a breakthrough. Chance favors the prepared mind. Okay, sir. Any other questions before we stop? Congealed wonder.
I actually read the conversations, and I know I will need to read it again a bit later. So what else should I read next? Or what other book should I take up? Should I take up Instant Zen?
Okay, from where you are now, I would say Instant Zen. Now, the good thing about Instant Zen is that it's an audible and it's a decent reading. A decent narration. And man, do we need these books on Audible. So now just saturate yourself with Instant Zen. There's going to be things there that are going to kind of jar you the wrong way, but that's okay. You're ready for it now.
Okay.
So I would go back and forth between those two, and let's do this the 11th century Zen approach for a while. All right, sir?
Yes.
Adios.
Thank you.
Take good care. Nos vemos.
Yep. Same to you.